That's Toledo Walleye Hockey, brought to you by Roots Poultry, located out in Fremont. We welcome you back here inside the Huntington Center. A lot of history hanging in the rafters here at the Huntington Center. Most of it won over at the Toledo Sports Arena, but they put a couple banners up now here at the Huntington Center. Glad to have you along in the broadcast booth. Always good to see Barry Schickling, who is the host, director, producer. He is the main man when it comes to ECHL week. You can see right off of ECHL.com, which is the best link, YouTube as well. Barry, first off, great to see you.
Thanks, Matt. It's great to be here. Always a treat to come to Toledo.
And no doubt you picked a great weekend. Got two division leaders matching up. Probably the best matchups of the weekend right here with Toledo and Utah. We've seen a great first 40 minutes between these two teams.
I think it came as advertised. Like you said, two first-place teams. They're well coached. They have a good amount of talent. Have both had pretty good seasons, especially the last few weeks. You know, what's not to like? And the Walleye are winning, so I guess you're particularly pleased about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, come on. We'll take the home cooking for sure, but I know you picked a great weekend to come in because we do have the Don Cherry jerseys going on tomorrow, and I know we talked about it earlier, Kyle Rogers and I did. If you grew up at all into hockey, if you're into hockey at all, you know who Don Cherry is no matter where you are.
Yeah, I know the NHL Network has been really good at kind of expanding the Hockey Night in Canada to people throughout the United States who hadn't, especially people away from the border, who hadn't had the chance to see Don Cherry or that production on Saturday nights. And he's an outstanding entertainer, and I guess he knows a little bit about hockey too, but he certainly has a lot of fans continent-wide, and he does a lot of good things for hockey.
Well, see, and we've been blessed here. I mean, in this area, we've always had CBC in some form, so you could watch Hockey Night in Canada for as long as it's been going on in our area,
right,
which is great with Windsor and all of that, not too far away. But talk a little bit about ECHL overall this year. I mean, you like the way it's kind of set up this year, the three divisions, each conference. You have more teams out west now. I know you had to shuffle some like Cincinnati out west, but to get more out in that western area, I know losing guys like Stockton, teams like that out in Bakersfield, but what are your thoughts on the ECHL right now?
I think it's terrific. For a number of years, the ECHL was so Eastern heavy that it didn't make for a really good Western Conference, or it made for a Western Conference where you had 8 or 9 or 10 teams and 8 of them make the playoffs, and that really wasn't fair, especially to the Eastern teams, some of whom were better than the ones in the West and didn't make the playoffs. But now you've got, with that kind of the Midwestern and the Central, and even the Western isn't now that far west without the California teams, with the exception of Alaska, of course. So I really like the construct of the league right now. I think there's a good balance. I think most of the teams are pretty darn good. I think you're seeing that, a lot of competition, a lot of, in Utah, in the West, for example, they're in first place, but the 4 teams under them are within a few points of one another. A couple of the divisions are like that, where you have and I think you'll see that particularly in the Eastern Conference, and fortunately for you guys, Toledo probably won't have to worry about that. They're looking pretty good in their division, but there's going to be a real race to the finish in the last month of the season in terms of trying to get those last few playoff spots, where you'll probably have in the East maybe, I don't know, 7, 8 teams trying to make those last 3 or 4 spots. So it should be really exciting, a lot of fun, and should make for some good hockey.
It certainly is. It's going to make for some interesting first-round matchups. No doubt, with the top 8 going in, the first 3 being the division winners seeded by points, and then the next best 5 teams will get in both conferences. So it could make for some very interesting. It's going to make for a great playoff year.
There's no question about that. Everybody that I talk to, when I talk to people, certainly in the ECHL, because they see it on a night in and a night out basis, but even people who are affiliated with the American League or the National League, they all talk about how every year the ECHL just gets better and better in a lot of terms, but particularly in the quality of the players, the quality of the coaches, how well teams execute. And what comes along with that is the excitement and the interest that fans can take advantage of, because you've got great teams playing one another, and when it gets to the playoffs, that just ramps up even more. especially because you have some players and some teams coming back from the American League. So I think the Kelly Cup playoffs in year number 28 of the ECHL, which we've got coming up in this spring, I think they're going to be tremendous, and you just really never know what's going to happen. I mean, the last few years, it's a different teams in the finals every year. Toledo had a really good run last year. They look like they might be equipped for a really good run this year. We'll see.
We certainly hope you're right on that. Tell the folks listening, watching tonight a little bit about ECHL Week if they have not had a chance to watch.
ECHL Week is a program about the league. That's simple. We try and get to every team. We talk to different people. We talk to players. We talk to coaches. We do different things. This year we're on the road. We're doing a lot of shots. We're out of the studio and in the venues. I'm recording some shows this weekend while we're here. So if you like the ECHL, want to follow what's going on, especially teams other than your own, it's the place to go. You can watch it on YouTube. You can watch it on Facebook, ECHL Week. We tweet a lot of news on our Twitter account, which is @ECHL Week, and of course, as you mentioned, ECHL.com. There's a big link there, right? If you go onto the website, and it's right there.
Which I find is the easiest way. Just quicker for me, I guess. I'm not as great on the technological side anyway, but certainly appreciate it, Barry. Always a pleasure to see you here in Toledo. Thanks for coming on and chatting a little bit about the league. We appreciate it.
My pleasure, Matt. Thank you.
All right, Barry Schickling from ECHL Week joining us here at the broadcast booth. Stay with us. We'll look back on period number 2 in just a moment. It's Toledo 3, Utah 2. After 40 minutes, this is Toledo Walleye Hockey.